Hello, hello, my fellow sensitive people. It is I, Whimsy, here to deliver a remote view regarding what's going on right now in Iran. As many of you know, about 2.5 years ago, I began a project which was called the Oasis 1 Rebuild of Gaza. It was a really complicated project. It involved subway systems, infrastructure, rehabilitation post-Hamas in Gaza. The original thesis that was presented to the IDF was 2.5 pages. And it was that thesis that I believe was given to Elon Musk on November 27th, 2023. But what some of you may not know is that in addition to the Oasis 1 rebuild, which was sent November 27th, 2023, I also began working on a series of remote views regarding how I felt most likely things would develop that would reduce the risk of nuclear war, World War III, etc. On the one hand, what I said was that war was inevitable, that war is inevitable, but that if military action wasn't taken now, things could probably get a lot worse. And we talked about phases, that there would be a series of phases that would happen. And we talked about 5 phases specifically, and an additional 6th point or phase that I had mentioned. In phase 1, we saw the end of the war in Gaza through ceasefire, and that the ceasefire would end when Hamas agreed to hand over Israeli hostages and agree to leave to a host country. And we have, in fact, seen some movement and discussion about countries that will take in Hamas. Approximately 380,000 families in Gaza are affiliated with Hamas. But that leaves something like between 1.4 and 1.7 million people that will probably be able to stay in Gaza. They will likely leave the area while it's being rebuilt, possibly to North Sinai and parts of Rafah while the rebuild takes place. And then the next phase after the withdrawal of Hamas will be the establishing of some type of local leadership. And we get to phase 3, which is the rebuild of Gaza and integration and cooperation between Gaza's local leadership and the Israelis to create a friendly border and cooperation between the two states. That is the three stages that we've talked about. The 4th stage that was necessary was the fall of Putin. And this is because Putin is an ally of Iran, and Putin was instrumental in the October 7th attacks. He was meeting with Hamas leadership, the terrorist organization behind the October 7th attacks in Israel. And so, because of Putin's active involvement in October 7th, and because of his work with Iran, they have a very strong relationship, Iran and Russia. Trade has been extensive for a very long time between Iran and Russia, and they've been allies for quite a long time, exchanging weapons, etc. And so for that reason, in order to weaken Iran and weaken the funds, weapons, etc. coming into Gaza, not to mention what's happening in Ukraine, it became apparent, just looking at the data, that the most likely scenario would be that Putin would be contained and removed, most likely by his own leadership. If you look at the fall of other leaders in Russia, whether it's Yeltsin or Gorbachev, they usually get removed. They're placed under some kind of house arrest. they're never really handed over to the West. They're not likely to hand Putin over to the West. He will likely, if he's captured, if he's arrested by his own people, have to live out his life somewhere in Siberia. Just as Gorbachev felt isolated by his people at the end of his life, Yeltsin certainly was isolated. And we could see, and we're likely to see that being the end for Putin. The fifth phase is the fall of Iranian leadership, of course. The fall of Iranian leadership took place in phases. First, by attacking Iran's proxy military. The proxy military of Hezbollah, which is located in parts of Lebanon, which was taken over, southern Lebanon, parts of Syria were taken over by Hezbollah, and Hezbollah was firing on Israel, sending drones into Israel, and it became a security risk. And so, not surprisingly, Israel began targeting Hezbollah in parts of Syria, parts of Lebanon. And in fact, we saw Hezbollah collapse. We saw Hezbollah's leadership collapse. And we also saw the fall of Syria and Assad, an ally of Iran. These actions dramatically weakened Iran's power and the power of their proxy military. In addition to that, of course, the Israelis, I'm Israeli, went into Gaza and they began to clear Hamas and to take over the perimeter in areas that look a lot like the 6 zones I talked about, which are part of the rebuild and part of the Oasis 1 project, which makes me optimistic that some of those ideas will be integrated into the rebuild. And now we find ourselves at phase 5, finally, where we are seeing the collapse of Iranian leadership, the fall of Iran, which is really the beginning of giving people their lives back in Iran. As many of you know, the people of Iran feel that they are quite literally being held hostage by their own leadership, and many in Tehran welcome what Israel is doing. Iran was building up its nuclear arsenal. It was developing nuclear weapons. This was something that the entire world was concerned about, including people that were involved in Atomic Commission, the International Atomic Commissions, etc., that were nuclear commissions that were checking to see about whether or not they had enriched uranium, what they were doing with enriched uranium. And it was determined that probably in about 2 weeks they would have enough uranium and the technology to build something like 15 nuclear bombs. You have to realize that for the Israelis, it just takes 1 nuclear bomb to take out the entire of the state of Israel. And you could theoretically launch one of those bombs from the mountains of Judea, if you wanted to, if you were on the West Bank. It would just take one person with a rocket launcher and a nuclear warhead. So the threat was very real for Israel, and they felt that they had no choice but to do what they did, which is why 2.5 years ago I published the 6 phases. Number 1, we get to cease fire. Number 2, exchange of hostages. Number 3, Hamas and Hamas supporters will leave to a host country. Number 3, we will see the rebuild of Gaza. Number 4, we will see the collapse of Putin. And number 5, we will see the collapse of Iranian leadership. And the final point I made is that the Abraham Accords will not include this Iran. Maybe in the future, when Iran is being led by a government that is less aggressive towards Israel, we might see the opportunity for them to come into the Abraham Accords. But at this point, it's unlikely that that is going to happen. What will most likely happen is that we'll see a collapse of Iranian leadership. I think the people of Iran want trials. They want to see these people tried, and they want to see justice for their families that have been falsely imprisoned, harassed, etc., tortured, harassment of women, etc., under the tyranny of Khamenei. So that's probably what's going to happen, and then we will probably see some kind of military coup with those IRGC members that supported the strikes. Some IRGC people have been assassinated, but many are supporting this collapse, and so that is likely what we will see going forward. The Shah's family could very likely come in as kind of a figurehead as they establish some kind of a new democracy over time. And that's basically what people are predicting is going to happen. All right, I want to thank you all for watching this quick video. Be sure and share, like, subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless, peace out, and we'll see you next time. Don't be sure and check out, by the way, below all the information about me if you need to make an appointment with me. All right, be well. God bless.